Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the channel. And immediately following this show, we got another premiere, and that will be on the other channel. So if you want to tune in for that, that's great. I probably won't be in the chat over there, but it's a show that I put together from past shows talking about a great earthquake that happened around the turn of the last century, as well as more flood stuff, and as well as the Book of Jasher that talks about a skin that was stolen by Ham. So I think that'll be a great show following this one. But for today's show, we're going to get into and talk about science. Now, sometimes science is built around an agenda or a foredrawn conclusion. In fact, the very definition of science is to form a hypothesis or a guess. And that guess, of course, is based on a theory and whatever information that they have available. And sometimes those foredrawn conclusions can be incorrect. Now, you'll be shocked at how often this happens. And it happened when science was in its infancy. Here are some of the early medical treatments and scientific opinion that were later proven wrong. Here's the era of modern science. And if you look here, they talk about some early scientific treatments, as well as here, talking about tobacco being used. It says during the 1665 PLAGUE in London, school children were told to smoke cigarettes, which at the time were thought to be disinfectants. In addition, tobacco smoke enemas, the source of a common idiom about blowing smoke, were developed as a sort of 18th century version of CPR by members of the Institution of Affordable Immediate Relief to persons apparently dead from drowning. Here's another one, cannonballism, we have to call it. Ancient Romans, the gladiators would eat and their enemies, basically. Here's another one, radium in the 1900s, a little bit more recently in history. When people walked into a spa in Jokmysl, Czech Republic, they immediately breathed in irradiated air circulated in the lobby. The source of the radiation was a hot spring that emanated radon. Patients soaked in this water. So, here are some early examples of how science got it wrong. Now, let's get into some of the rest of this. Because when you think about even things like antibiotics, remember, they were first hailed as a miracle before anyone ever considered that if they were overused, that there could be dangerous resistance. And now science admits we should not use antibiotics unless it's absolutely necessary, right? Now, it's clear to me that they've made all kinds of assumptions that, of course, now have been reduced to footnotes in history. Whereas the times that they got it right, all of a sudden those are hailed as victories in science, right? But all the mistakes got washed away in the historical record. Now, I understand that these things are based on trial and error, and of course the accuracy of the information used to continue to prove or disprove a hypothesis. But science, like anything else, can be corrupted by money and greed. And sometimes they're just flat out wrong. We've already caught many of these pharmaceutical companies, and they were actually fined for this, for rigging the studies. Johnson & Johnson. Now, science will say that we've come a long way with modern technology. But what do you think they were saying hundreds of years ago? They were saying the exact same thing. Oh, these are technologically advanced medical treatments. So, here's the other thing that I have a problem with. Science requires faith. And if you think about it, is the world run by faith? No. They don't allow faith to rule the world. They don't allow the faith to be ruled by biblical principles. So why would they allow the world to be run by the faith of science? Shouldn't the world be based on individual freedom and your choice to protect yourself against whatever dangers the world throws at you and not be forced to do anything against your will? And of course, that's the debate that is raging right now. My body, my choice. In the freest country in the world, do we really have a choice? Well, I guess you do if you don't want to get on an airplane and go to certain states, or if you don't want to have a certain job. I guess you're free to have a choice to this point, or go into certain businesses. So for today's show, I got to be very careful with my words, and I hope you guys understand that as I'm going through and navigating the show. Make sure we're connected up here. Are you guys, is the stream coming through okay? So it says here that not enough data is coming through, but it seems like you guys are all filtering in, so I think we're going to be good. So we're going to have a little fun today, because first I'm going to show you how an entire group of people were discredited by science, right, for something that they said that they experienced. But now, in the present, these same people are being acknowledged. In other words, the scientific consensus changed 180 degrees, and now what they experience is being accepted. So the question is, what about all the women before this, who thought that they were losing their minds, who, when they turned on the mainstream media, they were told it was all in their head? Or the women whose social media posts were taken down, they were put on Facebook timeout for simply reporting their experience. Why were they not given the help that they needed? Or why wasn't their experience taken seriously and affirmed? When you think about the ramifications of this, with something as important as a sticker whose intent was to sticker the entire world, you would think that the establishment would want to have accurate reporting of the truth, rather than dismissing or discrediting what people claim to experience. So, we're going to read the before. We're going to read that first. What was said 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And then we're going to read to you what they're saying now. Now, I can't give you my opinion on this, because opinion is now forbidden on YouTube when it comes to certain topics. But we can read these mainstream news articles in the past and in the present. And that will give us all the information we need to understand what just happened. So let me give you the backdrop. Right after Vaka Day, which was right around Christmas of 2020, women across the nation began experiencing things. And immediately, the fact checkers said this. Now I'm going to read the dates that these articles published, and then the highlights of the articles. And then, after I read the articles of what happened then, we're going to look at what they're saying now. Now, this is pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. So, here's Outlook Magazine, July 7th. No, this is April 28th, 2021. So this is not too long ago, but recent. And, of course, they're saying that the CV does not impact the M word. Ministry of Health, international clinical cells, and healthcare bodies have informed that there's no data linking the VCs to the M word, right? So that's one article. Now, this is, of course, based in what looks to be India, but they are denying it. Okay, at that point. This is as late as April, just a few short months ago. Let's go to this next article. Now, what you're going to notice here in some of these is that some of these stories actually make the claim that CV19 is the cause of the changes instead of the sticker. And this was before even some of these stickers came to market. Almost as if they anticipated what would happen. Here's Health, right? Another mainstream. This is actually a mainstream source. This is dated April 6th, 2021. Recent history. Can the CVVC affect your P word? Some women say it's changed theirs. Here's what we know right now. Women are sharing personal stories about this on social media. Yeah, a lot of them got those taken down. So we asked the experts if the changes could be an effect of the nation of vacas. It says the VC can come with many totally normal effects. So it's only natural to wonder if it can temporarily influence other aspects of your health, like your M cycle. First, there's no reason not to get. See, so they're telling you, don't worry. Now, this is a pretty serious thing for a lot of women. You know, there are people out there who, if they knew that this was a possible effect, might opt not to get this. There are a lot of women that are anemic, for instance, who, you know, you have a series of bad P words, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble health-wise because you're anemic and, you know, you need all that you can get. This is a very real thing. Okay? You know, a lot of people that are anemic because of their monthly P word. And if they knew that this was a possibility, they might make a different choice. But the information just wasn't given to them back then. So they're saying, oh, these women are going on social media, being irresponsible before they even know. They're just saying it's because of this. In other words, they're being shamed. Okay. I'm curious whether other M words have noticed the changes too. Okay. So they're showing what they're saying. Other people chimed in with their own stories. The personal stories continued. So, YouTube, I'm just reading an article here. I'm not giving my opinion about anything. So, first they tell the stories. Is there any research on CV19 and VCs? Not really. So they talk about the program that they have where people can report things. But then they discredit that, because they say that anyone can report anything. Given that anyone could submit anything to the system, it's just all anecdotal at this point. Now, can you imagine if you were someone experiencing this? Well, how you'd be feeling at this point? You'd be feeling like you're going crazy. What could be going on here? Experts say it's really hard to know for sure. Well, how about you believe women and what they're telling you? For those women who report more pain, it may be that aches and pains post-VC compound normal pains. Oh, so all that, you know, if you're experiencing any cramping, it's probably just, you know, that. It says the heavier flow is a little trickier to explain. They're basically explaining it away. A small study, it says here, of childbearing women that had CV19 reported some changes. The M changes. So, see how they're starting to shift here. They're saying, oh, it's the CV19 that's causing it, not the VC. And I'm not saying what's causing it. I'm just telling you what the article is saying here. So, let's go on here. While it's possible that the CV19 VC could have a similar effect, it's not known at this time. There's also the possibility that stress could be playing a role. See how they've got all these other reasons that later, as I'm going to show you next, basically now they're conceding some of this. First, don't panic. What if my P word changes after I get the VC? Don't panic. While it could just be one of those things that can occur following a VC, it also may be a sign of something else that just coincidentally showed up after you got the VC. So, this is a whole lot of dodging, it appears to me, going on in this article. Basically making you believe that, hey, it's probably not that, right? That's the point that they're getting at here. It's probably not caused by that. Let's go to this next article. The Ferret. This one's dated July 2nd. That's not right. 2021. This is the UK. Now, symptoms vary, but include heavier P words and unexpected bleeding. These symptoms have occurred following inoculation. They are not included in any of the list of possible effects. So these are like fact check articles, right? Look at the various reports of abnormalities and whether any links have been established between the VCs and reported changes. So they talk about what has been reported, and then they go on to basically discredit that and say that that's not the cause. Have any of these issues been directly linked to any of the CVVCs? The current evidence does not suggest an increased risk of unexpected bleeding. So, what else do we have here? Some people are reporting abnormal P words. This one's dated April 2021. And so you get the gist, okay? All you got to do is go into Google, type in a date range for your search. I'm not going to belabor this anymore, but you get it. They're basically saying there is no connection. And that brings us to this article, July 1st. Why aren't my doctors talking about the CVVC and our P word? Let's read this. Text me when it's a good time to talk. That's never a message you want to receive when awaiting lab results. After my pregnancy and a year of postnatal physical therapy, I had become close with the nurses and staff at my OBGYN's office. This was the first time my nurse practitioner had ever texted something so direct, yet so ambiguous. Now, this is from, what is this? Make sure I get the source here. This is the Daily Beast, mainstream article. See what else they have to say here. This is the first time that I received anything so ambiguous. And of course, if you're a woman, you understand these are very scary phone calls or texts that you would get from your practitioner because they're not telling you that there's something wrong. You got to call them to get that information. It had been at least 2 months since my last P word, and we'd begun to worry with another P word ruled out and undergone a battery of additional testing, ultrasound, physical exams, blood work to pinpoint a cause. Pending my diagnosis, we'd already agreed upon a tentative treatment plan for follow-up visits. It might include injections to help jumpstart my cycle. I sat on the couch, gnawing at my cuticles, waiting for the call from the NP. The first of many insurance bills had already arrived and sat splayed on the table. The results are in, she said, when I answered the phone. How old were the women in your family when they went through the M word? Menopause, I guess we could say that. According to my blood work, my hormone levels were post-menopausal. At 40 years old with no other symptoms and a toddler at home, how could this possibly make sense? I had speculated, Googled, doom scrolled as much as anyone might in the lead up to that call, but the thing I kept returning to was that my problem started soon after receiving my second dose of the sticker. Before hanging up the phone, I sheepishly asked whether the sticker could be the culprit. After a pause, the nurse practitioner replied, anecdotally, other women have been reporting the same thing. Now, many of you in the chat have probably had the same discussion with your practitioner. This is your opportunity to chime in. If you've had that same discussion with your practitioner and they said anecdotally other women have been reporting the same thing, then put that in the chat, because this will give us a more truer picture of exactly how many people, because after a while it goes beyond anecdotally. Okay, after a while it goes beyond anecdotally. Now he says here, despite thousands of women reporting disruptions in their M cycles ranging from that to that to that, are not an officially recognized side effect of any of the VC. I can't even believe this isn't a mainstream article. To be clear, amid the ongoing spam demo, I encourage everyone to get the VC. You always got to throw that in there. Even if you're experiencing unusual symptoms, they just tell you to go seek medical care and report your experience. The reports that they say that are irrelevant because anyone can upload those reports. I don't understand. I'm grateful that I had the resource to be evaluated. I have no regrets about receiving the VC. They got to throw that in there too. Or any other VC demonstrated to be safe and effective. I don't know for certain that the VC is responsible for my health concerns, but not knowing is precisely the problem. My cycle eventually returned on its own, offsetting a need for more aggressive intervention. So basically what she's saying here is she went into early menopause. She's not explaining why, but she went to her doctor. So, watchdog groups have increasingly noted that cases like mine are going underreported. No one could say for certain how many of the millions of physiologically female persons and people who, M-word, who have been VC'd continue to undergo perhaps unnecessary procedures or experience significant emotional and financial strain as a result of potential effects of the VC. Grassroots efforts by female researchers on platforms are encouraging more conversation about this issue. Why now? They weren't encouraging these conversations before, as we just showed you in all the articles going back even as recently as 2 months. So someone flipped the script and decided all of a sudden now they're going to encourage people to talk about this. What about the women before that? Those efforts offer some of the only venues where women can network with one another, or perhaps find some solace knowing that they are not alone when they leave their doctor's offices. Now, I also want you guys to put in the chat if your post about what you experienced got taken down off of social media as we'll call it Mr. Information. Put that down because we need to know. It says, answers may not be forthcoming. Recent article asked representatives of the UK Medicines and Healthcare Products pointedly why these irregularities had not been added to the official list of effects from the sticker. The response was simply that there was no need to do so, despite nearly 4,000 women formally reporting the problem, with many more likely either unaware of the reporting procedure or not on the lookout for symptoms. So here's the problem. This is supposed to be something that they're supposed to be looking for. They have to make sure, because this thing was rushed to market, they should be trying to make sure that it remains safe. But instead, this almost amounts to a cover-up. This reporting out of the UK reflects a larger trend within the medical research, which is extraordinarily defaulted to male test subjects. In the US, for example, women have only been included in clinical research trials since 1993, following a federal mandate through the National Institutes of Health Revitalization Act. Prior to this policy change, researchers were under no obligation to consider whether the variables being studied affect women and minorities differently than other participants. So, this is what's going on. Again, can't put too much opinion in this, but I just laid out to you some very bizarre chain of events that have happened from the beginning when everyone was reporting it, but then shamed online. shamed away, and now they're starting to look at it. And so that goes along with science having an agenda. And if what they're trying to tell you they believe is the case, if that doesn't jive with what is really happening, then they tend to ignore it or not address it. So hopefully this was a helpful show. And again, like I said, we'll be on in an hour on the other channel. I put the link up here in the pinned comment for you guys. Here it is right here. If you want to check that out. It's about an hour and a half long. Good show. Vintage show. Some of our older work. So please excuse any of the edit errors and stuff like that. The channel's come a long way. I think we've grown quite a bit in terms of the way we present and stuff like that. I try to be a lot more organized now. It wasn't as organized back then, but it's a lot of great information. Stuff that even I've forgotten until I dug it back up. So let's go into the chat here. Okay. The most effective shows I think we do are the before and after shows. You know, hindsight is always 2020. When you look back at the progression of events and how things played out, that's where we see the truth. The shifting sands of, you know, what they tell us that they believe, that they know beyond a matter of a fact, and then they come back later, and then all of a sudden it's different. Okay. And you're not allowed to talk about things jumping from things to things. I know that Call for an Uprising just caught, I think he caught a strike on that. Not allowed to say that here on YouTube anymore. All right. All right. All right, you guys. I'm going to pop off of here and probably see you guys over on the other show, the other premiere. Have a great day, everybody.